You've heard me say this already, but I just want to remind you that this podcast is made possible by listeners like you. Yes, I ask the questions and do some background stuff, but sellers who come on to share their Etsy stories and lessons they've learned along the way are what this podcast is all about. And if you would like to be featured on the podcast, please go to convome.com and go to the Be My Guest tab. There's a short form that you can fill out. It just lets me know that you're interested in being featured on the podcast. If you hit submit, it will come to me and then I will take it from there. And I just want to say thank you in advance for being a part of the Etsy Conversations podcast community. I look forward to hearing from you and featuring you on the podcast, hopefully one day in the near future.
Welcome to the Etsy Conversations podcast, featuring inspiring interviews with Etsy shop owners, hosted by Ijama Elazu.
Hello and welcome to the Etsy Conversations podcast. I'm your host Ijama and I thank you for joining me for another episode of the podcast. This week, my guests are Noam and Sigal Zakai, and they are the owners of Backtsy. Backtsy is the automatic backup service for Etsy shops. And if you've never backed up your Etsy shop, you want to make sure you listen to this conversation because we're going to talk about why you need to do it and how and where Backtsy comes in. So Noam and Sigal, thank you so much for being my guests and welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thank you for having us.
You are so welcome. And I have to say, this is a first. I've talked to people in different parts of the world, and everyone knows I love having international guests on. And you guys are in Israel, and you're my first Israeli guests. So I am happy to finally have an Israeli guest on my podcast. So it's exciting for me.
It's also exciting for us to be the first Israelis in something.
Lots of things, really. So before we start our conversation, can you guys introduce yourselves and Backtsy and just tell us about your backstory, how you got involved with Etsy and then eventually offering this service to Etsy sellers?
Okay, so I'm Noam, and I got actually to think about Backtsy. We got actually to think about it together based on Sigal's experience as a seller. She will present herself in a minute, but she has been a seller for over 7 years now. And as part of her work, we identified the need to have a copy, an organized copy of her shop. And when we decided to do it, I come from technological background, and we decided that at a certain point in time in 2014, I think it was, we just decided to go ahead and do it. And this is how Backtsy came to life.
Perfect.
And I'm Sigal. I'm an Etsy seller for about 7 years. I sell jewelry. And I started making jewelry, I think, 20 years ago, something like that. Yes, and I quit my day job, I think, about 10 years ago before opening a shop on Etsy. And I was working in an accountant firm company, and very boring. And decided to jump to the water and open my shop, and I'm happy ever since.
Wow.
She never looked back.
I never looked back. Yes.
Oh, good for you. Now, Sigal, one of the things I like to ask other Etsy sellers who start selling is, when you first started, did you know, or was it your desire to one day make your craft and selling your crafted items, your jewelry in your case, your full-time occupation? Or did you just start it hoping that, if it works out, great, and if it doesn't, no problem?
Well, I had a good job and I didn't think about it. It started like a hobby, something that I did once a week. I went to a workshop and worked in making jewelry, and it was something that I enjoyed doing it. It wasn't like a day job, and I didn't think about it this way. But um,
Things moved on, and Sigal was also dragged because of me to a very rural part of our country. So
Okay.
then kind of everything lined up together.
Okay. It just all worked out.
Yeah.
I like it when this sellers just have a situation that starts off one way but then ends up working out another way, and then something happened. What was the turning point that you decided a service like Backtsy was essential? And for anyone who is listening and you want to look it up right now, it's BACK TSY. I will link to it in the show notes, but you can also go to home.backtsy.com.
Yeah, exactly. And if you go to Google and just write Backtsy, it will take you there. I think that I don't remember the exact turning point, but we have given it some thought for quite some time. And I think that at a certain, I don't remember if there was any specific event. I think that we started asking other sellers about it.
Yes.
So we started asking
Yes.
your friends a little bit.
Yeah, I have many friends selling on Etsy like myself, and I started asking them, and I started reading on blogs and on Etsy forums all kind of things about how do you back up your shop, and sellers were asking about it, and it's something that bothered me as well. So I told Noam about it, and
whenever something bothers Sigal, I have to do something about it.
Yeah. Perfect husband. So then you've developed this tool that helps Etsy sellers back up their shops.
Yeah, actually, what it does is it automates the backup
Okay.
process. So actually, the Etsy seller, it's like one less thing he has to remember. Etsy sellers are busy people. They have lots of tasks.
Yeah.
Both in
they are busy creating.
and also busy managing the shop. Managing an online shop takes a lot of consumes a lot. So this is one task that he takes off them, because he does it automatically on a
regular basis.
Yeah, they can choose the frequency if they want a monthly backup or a weekly backup. So they sign up, and we've tried to keep this service very, very, very affordable. They just sign up, decide the frequency, and basically that's it. We'll keep a copy available for them.
Okay.
That they can use at any time.
So it's stored somewhere off of Etsy, so that if anything happens to their shop, they're able to retrieve their data from wherever the Backtsy service is storing it and just re-upload. Is that how it would work if somebody lost everything?
Yeah. So the way it works, first of all, it is stored in an Amazon cloud, which is like the safest place to keep information.
Okay.
And the way that it works today is actually, because of various reasons, the way that it works today is that it is stored there. You can download it to your computer, and if it happens that you need to restore an item, the way that it is today is that it has to be done manually. There are a few reasons for that. It used to be automatic, and currently the way that it is right now, it is manual from various reasons. Some of them have to do with security and with all sorts of regulations in the European Union. But the way that it's a long story, but the way that it is today, it is manual. We hope to do it again automatically in the future. There are just some operational issues we need to overcome.
Okay. Now, as far as getting access to it, if someone wants to back up their Etsy shop and all their data, do they go through the main Backtsy website, or do they link their shop to it through the Etsy third-party apps, or can they do it both ways, or either way rather?
So they have to actually go to the Backtsy website. Then when they sign up, we actually lead them to authorize access to the shop, the third-party access that you mentioned. And once they approve it, then they have to choose the frequency of the backup and complete the payment via PayPal.
Okay.
And then they're all set. They're ready to go. It's very important to stress that in order for the backup to work, the shop has to be online. We have many people that turn to us after their shop has been suspended, and then they're asking us to save their shop. And once their shop has been suspended, we cannot save them.
Oh, okay. So this is like insurance. Do it when everything is going well, so that when things get messed up, it's
the same. It works the same thing like insurance.
Yeah, exactly. It's an insurance. We try to keep the payment very minimal. We realize that that Etsy sellers work with strict budgets.
Yeah.
We do it. It's both of us are working in this business, but it's like for me, I have another day job and another business, and Sigal has her demanding jewelry business.
Yeah.
Just try to keep it, very minimal and very simplistic. Try to lower cost as much as possible, and just have it available to sellers, because we know from people that that they make this mistake and they edit the wrong item or edit their item, they change the tags and it disappeared from the search, from Etsy search. They were in the first page and now all of a sudden, boom, they're in the 10th page, they're gone, and they want to go back. They want to get it back. And so we know how important it is, and we try to make it very, very affordable.
Oh, very good. That's encouraging. That's good to hear. Now, speaking about who is an ideal client for this service, should a seller have a certain volume of listings in their shop before needing to use your service? Or is it something you recommend right from when a seller has any number of listings posted, start backing up immediately?
So I think there are two types that I can think of. One of them is the type that makes changes to his shop. His shop is alive and kicking, and he adds items and he removes items, and he makes changes in his items. He tries a different title, he tries a different tag, he moves pictures around, and then this is one type of user, and I think it's most of the active sellers. If you did the shop as a one-time effort, and forget about it now, if the shop will be successful or not, it's another issue. But if you made the shop and it's there to stay, hardly changes anything, then we can subscribe for 1 month, just do one backup and save it into his computer and unsubscribe. The service, by the way, is monthly, no commitment at all. You can cancel anytime.
Okay.
And the other type is actually I think new sellers who are only starting, making a lot of changes in the shop.
Yeah.
And this is many times the situation where things go wrong because they're not experienced with the Etsy interface, who is okay, but not that friendly, and there are many things that it just that you can miss and many mistakes you can make. And we know about quite a few Etsy consultants that this is like one of the first recommendations that I tell, you know what, first thing you do is you make a backup before you start playing with your shop, because when things go wrong, we want to be able to go back to square one.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Now, does Backtsy back up just the listings or everything? So your policies, all the settings that you have in your shop, is all that information backed up as well?
Well, Backtsy first of all, it backs up the listings, including the images, in a very organized way. So
Okay.
when you download the backup, you can see that all your images are stored in one folder, and the name of the item is a part of every image. So if you have 5 images, and the image is called, the item is called,
Silver
I don't know, ring
bracelet.
for sale. I'm not that creative, so I call it just ring. So there will be 5 images: ring for sale 1 and ring for sale 2, and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
So all the images, all the content of the listing,
Yeah.
Description, attributes,
Oh, right. Yeah.
everything, tags, titles, everything.
And
Shop info.
now shop info is actually, we save also the shop info.
Mm-hmm.
It's also part of the backup. Though I think that today we don't enable to download it. It is just saved, and you can.
We did some changes when we moved to the new API, Etsy's API. So we made some changes.
But API stands for Application Programming Interface, for those who don't know, and this is the method that Etsy allows applications like ours to access its database.
Yeah.
And they have the tendency to change it from time to time, and this sometimes makes our lives more complicated.
I can only imagine.
Yeah, so this is something that as I said before, currently we back up all the listings,
Yes.
and the restore has to be manual.
Okay.
And one more thing that is important, another thing that we're considering to do, but still it's important to stress that it's not a part of the product today, is actually backing up all the sales information and the reviews. And
that can get lost too?
Well, if your shop is suspended.
Oh, right. Okay.
The suspension is not lifted, then you have a lot of reviews, and hopefully good reviews.
Yeah.
That are actually lost, and if you move to a different platform or you move to your own site after that, you can use them.
Okay.
Now again, we're planning to do it. There is again an issue of privacy and security that we need to check to make sure that we are compliant. There are some new privacy regulations now in the European Union. Don't want to bore this audience, but
I think they're well aware. We just a few weeks ago had an episode about those new.
I had to write a policy about a privacy policy, so
Right.
I'm sure sellers aware
Are
of it.
very aware. Yes.
So we're looking on how to do it in a way that will be compliant, blah blah blah.
Okay.
We hope to have it soon. Currently we don't have it.
Okay. All right. Now the options for backup, you mentioned there are different options, and I just want people to know, again, depending on how often you make changes to your Etsy shop, you have different backup options. You can back up daily, weekly, or monthly, and the pricing does change based on how often you do these backups. So if you're making lots of changes actively, which probably if you are, like Noam said, a brand new seller and you're actively building your shop and adding lots of listings to gain momentum, you might want to be backing up more frequently, and then when you're at a more steady state and you have a rhythm in place, and you've figured out your whole ratio of making to listing, then you can decide if you need to adjust your backup frequency.
Exactly. Today we actually offer two frequencies. We offer the monthly option and we offer the weekly option.
Okay.
We used to offer also a daily option, but we realized that the price was relatively high. And again, when we talked to some sellers, we realized that even those who did it were not 100% sure why they needed it that frequent.
Okay.
So today we offer a weekly and the monthly service,
Okay.
a monthly backup, and I mean, from what we hear from our customers, this is good enough. Again, we try to listen to our customers, and if we get feedback that more frequencies are needed, we will add them.
Okay. And I'm thinking that, depending again on how often you're updating, weekly would be a safe way to go, because the changes you might make from one week to the next, if you happen to lose everything, midweek, in the middle of the week before you've had your last backup, might be easier to just, deal with than having to do the delta of a monthly backup. I don't know if that makes sense what I'm saying.
I think that also, by the way, we're seeing it that, the shops that take the weekly are typically more active. Those who do the monthly, take it more as an insurance against shop suspension or really harsh mistakes that they make.
Okay. Yep. Now, Sigal, you have been selling on Etsy for now about 7 years, and your Etsy shop, for anyone who wants to go check it out while we're having this conversation, I will link to it as well. It's Sigal F Jewelry. So you understand, you've been around the Etsy community. You've been there through some changes that have happened over the last few years that you've been on. As an Etsy seller yourself, what would you say are some of the mistakes, in addition to maybe not backing up your data on your Etsy shop, that you see shop owners or in general creative business owners making when it comes to running their businesses?
Okay. Well, I can say that I also made mistakes. Some of them were beginners' mistakes, and some were mistakes I made during my journey on Etsy. But mistakes are part of the business, and I guess there are no exceptions. So first mistake I see a lot is sellers think that once they open an online shop, their work is done, and sales will come, and they wait for sales, and when it doesn't happen, they get disappointed and frustrated. And having an online shop is a full-time job. There is marketing, SEO, working on your titles and tags. There is always what to do and what to learn. And it is important to learn the online business and see what works best for you. So opening a shop is just the first step, and marketing and growing it are the next steps. Another common mistake I see is related to the operational aspect of managing an online business. And I'm sorry, but it's Backtsy, it's related to Backtsy, but I see it a lot. People invest so much time and effort to build an online shop.
Yeah.
They take pictures, write item descriptions, and upload so much information, but they neglect to save all this information in their computer. And we talked about it. Etsy can close a shop for various reasons, and we don't always have control about it. And also there are human errors, and I've seen it happening a lot to my friends and to other Etsy sellers. And to be honest, when it happens, it is very frustrating.
It also happened to you before we had the Backtsy, you know.
It happened to me, yes.
Yeah.
So even if you are not planning to pay for an automatic backup, it is important to save your shop data on your computer every now and then. And yes, it is time consuming if it's not done automatically, but it is important, and it is better to be safe than sorry. This is my opinion.
Yeah.
And another example I would like to share from my own experience is when I opened my shop, I thought that my photos were okay, but in fact, they were terrible. And a friend of mine, who is also an Etsy seller, she told me that I have to replace the photos, and she said it nicely. Still, it took me some time until I have decided to do something about it. So I didn't want to spend a lot of money on professional photographer, and I decided to take lessons with a teacher on my camera, and I can only say that it paid off big time because the change was dramatic, and I received so many feedbacks from other sellers. The best part was the immediate growth in sales. So photos are first impression on customers, and it is a mistake to settle for just okay photos.
Yeah. Wow, thank you so much. I know we hear all the time pictures are everything, but it's not often I've heard someone actually say from personal experience changing their pictures made all the difference
Yeah.
from switching. Does it matter what kind of camera? Like, did you have to buy like a high-end DSLR type of camera, or was the person that you took lessons from able to just teach you with what you had on hand?
Yes, exactly. She taught me with my own camera,
Okay.
and the camera I have is, I think it's Canon GX or something like that.
It's
12.
not a DSLR
It's
in
not
any
a,
in
yes,
any
it's
way.
not.
Okay.
But
That's
I bought
encouraging.
it after I asked in our Facebook forum of Etsy sellers. I asked, what do you think is the best camera to? I wanted a small camera. I didn't want something big. And it was like 5 years ago or 6 years ago that I bought it, and I still use it, and it's a good camera. You don't need a fancy one, a very complicated one.
Yeah.
And I learned to how to activate it and make the best photos I can. And it
When
was a
people
wise
see it, I think
decision.
they don't believe that it's many people that saw it don't believe that it came from this camera. When we
Yes.
showed it to a few people, they were like, you can get. I think that the lesson learned here was that you can get a lot done with quite a standard
Simple.
camera.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's encouraging because, as you know, many Etsy sellers are working with a limited budget as they ramp up. And so, most of us cannot go out or cannot afford to go out and buy the higher end cameras. So go check out Sigal's photography. It's great. It's, again, her Etsy shop is Sigal F Jewelry. I will link directly to it so you can take a look at what she's doing. If you scroll down to her about section, she also has, I like the video of you making the ring.
Yeah.
Which I find so intriguing. And I know especially buyers like to see that type of
Yeah,
video,
it's
seeing things
actually,
being made.
yeah, it's actually the first film I've ever
Oh,
shoot, and since this one, I made a few more.
Where are they on the Instagram?
I think it's on Instagram, yes, and Facebook, yes,
okay, good.
and I got very, very nice feedbacks about it. So it's very encouraging,
And you even had fun doing it.
and I had fun doing it, yes.
That's good. And one of the things I like about seeing those in the process videos is, you know how there on Etsy, there's now some infusion of sellers that are not necessarily hand making their stuff. It's,
Oh,
you know,
yes,
reselling. I don't know if you know that's become kind of a
yes,
problem on Etsy. So to see an actual jewelry maker, you know, somebody who says, you know, I make my own jewelry, and then you have a video showing yourself making it, I think, you know, is great, because then a buyer knows, okay, yes, this isn't
yes,
just reselling, you know, something that was bought from, you know, the manufacturer. She is actually, or he is actually making the jewelry.
yes, exactly. Yeah. It's authentic, yes.
Yes, thank you. That's the word, authentic. Now, Noam and Sigal, do you have any other specific tips or advice for sellers to grow their business, as you guys have both, you know, running two businesses each, one combined? Any other
Yeah.
advice, or particular tools that you would recommend that sellers can use to just help be more effective and productive, of course, in addition to Backtsy?
Yes, actually, there are endless issues and topics I can think of,
Hmm.
so I will speak generally if it's okay.
Absolutely.
Um, First, uh, ex- I think it's important to explore other online and offline sale markets like fairs or special events, special sales events. In other words, don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah.
This is first tip. Second, there is not a magic formula in managing a handmade business or any business, and what works for other sellers not necessarily will work for you. So keep exploring and study. Be open to new trends and don't stop trying. Etsy
Absolutely.
keeps changing, and as Etsy sellers, we need to adjust. So be aware of these changes and keep moving forward. Um, Third, keep good communication with your customers. Respond quickly. I have returning customers, and some of them turn to be good friends, and we keep in touch. This is very nice.
Yeah.
I like it. And I like when customers share their story with me. It makes the online business much more personal and cozy, if you can say.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So good communication will make them come back. And last tip I'd like to share is about friends and colleagues. I'm a friendly person and I like to meet people and be around people, but most of the time I sit at home alone, creating or working on on my shop, and it is not a complaint. But it is important to surround yourself with friends and colleagues that also have handmade business and sometimes share the same concerns and doubts. It is nice to have someone to consult with, to drink coffee with, to
Mm.
meet in person every now and then. And I am a member in a few Facebook groups of Etsy sellers, Israelis and non-Israelis. And in these groups, we share information and ask questions. It is great and very helpful. And I think that's about it.
That's so great. Thank you. And I know you touched on something that I know we all tend to run into sometimes, is feeling like we're the only ones after a while, and just connecting with other people is so, really
Yeah.
helps to, you know, feel like you have a community of kindred spirits and, you know, similar minds
Yeah.
who
Support,
understand.
support one another. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, thank you so much. That was very helpful.
Mhm.
Now, Noam and Sigal, if anyone is listening and they have some more questions about Backtsy, maybe there's something that we have not mentioned, and they want to get in touch and just ask some more questions about it, what's the best way they can reach you or connect with you to get more information?
I think that the simplest way is actually, and it's also there is a contact us option in the site that actually directs you to an email. It's admin at
Backtsy.com.
Exactly.
Okay. I love how you guys finish each other's sentences.
We usually respond within 24 hours or less.
Yeah, it's only the two of us, so
Okay.
sometimes it and there are the hours differences, so sometimes it takes us a little bit longer to answer.
Okay.
But we are available, and we like to communicate with the sellers, and we try to give our best.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing more information about Backtsy and just the importance of this tool. And I will link directly to Backtsy. Again, if you just want to hop on there and check it out right now while you're listening, you can either go to Google and type in Backtsy, it's BACKTSY, or go to home.backtsy.com. And like I said, I will link to the website and to Sigal's Etsy shop as well. And I will have Noam and Sigal's contact information in the show notes for this episode. Noam and Sigal, thank you so much for taking the time out to talk with me about this tool and just the importance of keeping our information safeguarded and backed up. I know I've lost information before. I think everybody at some point has gone through the frustration of losing something and having to start from scratch. And so, I'm glad that we were able to talk about this tool, and thank you for taking the time out to do so.
Thank you very much for having us.
You are welcome.
We really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. You are so welcome. And I thank you for listening to the podcast. I will be back next week.
Thank you for listening. You can subscribe to the podcast in iTunes, and while you're there, please leave a review too. Visit convome.com to leave a comment or feedback on this episode.